I'm sitting here in a park. It's Sunday afternoon, and I'm watching groups of families and friends, mostly in the Hispanic community, having a cookout. They're playing volleyball, and what I'm seeing right now, it's behind me, it's in front of me, it's all around me, are multiple generations of people hanging out together. You got young kids and their parents friends, and it's all one big community. And we don't really do that too much in our country anymore. Just kind of hang out and spend time together. And the one group that's really lost out, the one group that's really suffered from this is guys. And so if you are 18, 19, 20, if you're in college, especially if you're in a fraternity, if you're in your mid to late 20s, early 30s, as young as your early 40s, if you're definitely in middle school, I just want to say that I'm sorry. If you're lost, confused, depressed, not real clear on who you are, not real clear on what it means for you to be an adult, and you're getting all these mixed messages from your parents, from school, from church, from the society at large, and you just don't know what to do, I'm sorry. Basically what happened is that you've been abandoned. And our country kind of inadvertently has dropped the ball on guys, in part focusing so much of our energy on rightly bringing remedies to a lot of the injustices and the ways in which we kept women and girls out of opportunity. But beginning in the late 1970s and definitely really solidified in the 1980s is that if you're a guy, you basically just got abandoned, and you have been on your own to figure out what it means to be a man. So what happens? We turn our back on guys, we leave them alone to figure this stuff out, and then when they don't get it right, we shame them, we mock them, we ridicule them. We call them man children. He's just a man child. We say they're immature. We call them toxic. We make fun of them because guys are playing video games, because they're not serious, because they're still living at home with their parents. All those things that we do to sort of emasculate and shame guys because they're not meeting the expectations of what we think they should meet. But what do we expect when they have never been invested in and never given the resources to be adults? It's really quite unfair to do that to them. So in this country right now, if you're between the age of 25 and 31, you're 66% times more likely to be living at home between the ages of 25 and 31 than if you're a woman. If you go to college, if you even go to college, in 1980, men and women were getting college degrees at roughly about the same percentage rate, so about 50-50 for each gender. By 2020, the projection is that college degrees will be primarily given to women. In fact, that's already the case, but by 2020, the projections will be 61% women and 39% male, and that's going to continue. That disparity is expected to continue to grow. Male suicide right now is at an all-time high. Both in the UK and in the US, it's a leading cause of death among young guys. Suicide kills more men than war, murder, and natural disasters combined. There's a real crisis. Boys are obese now in ways that they've never been before. Boys are 400% more obese than they were in 1970. So guys are suffering out there, struggling, trying to figure it out. And so, like anyone else, they created their own ways to try to figure out what it means to be a man. And then we mock them and shame them for it. So what do they use? They use girls. They use drugs and alcohol. They use sports. They use financial success. They use risky behaviors to try to identify whether or not they've made it into adulthood. And this is what happens when they've never been given a process. They've never been given the tools, a framework for what it means for them to be a grown adult man. So here's what should have happened. And by the way, I'm not making this up. Lots of books have been talking about this. Michael Gurion, he's been talking about this for a long time. I think this book came out in the 1990s. This book came out in 1998. This has been a huge problem. Robert Tominski's been talking about this because the internet has made all of these things even worse. You've got Stephen Bidoff here, who's also been raising these issues. I think this book is in its third edition. You've got John Eldridge, who's also been raising these issues for quite some time. You've got Warren Farrell and John Gray, who've both been raising these issues as well in this book, The Boy Crisis. I could line up books here until the end of tomorrow about these issues, and essentially we're at a situation where guys are struggling. Now here's what should have happened. Between the ages of sort of birth to about first or second grade, guys should have experienced a lot of affection, a lot of adornment. This is the age in which guys should have been experienced the idea, especially from their dads, that they are adored, from their moms, that they are cared for, lots of intimacy, lots of connections, a lot of affection during those years. Once that kid reaches about probably 7-8 years old, probably second, third grade, that's when he really needs his dad. He needs to continue to get great affection from his mom, but he really needs his dad to step in and start to teach him some skills and some competencies. He needs to teach him kindness and patience, and he needs to invest in him emotionally. He needs to be close to him. Lots of play together, lots of roughhousing together. Those things teach delayed gratification. It teaches impulse control. It teaches things like that. Once that kid reaches probably 9th, 10th, 11th grade, kind of middle of high school years, he needs his dad, but he also needs a community of men to teach him what it means to be an adult, what it means for him to be an adult man. He needs his dad. He needs guys his dad's age. One of these books talks about it in terms of sort of uncles and grandfather figures, older mentors to do that. And most guys in this country never had that. They never got that. And if they were in a church, which is, I think, even more surprising, that in a church setting that's supposed to be focused on giving children what they need, they gave guys everything they needed but what they actually really needed. They gave them a lot of really good basics about their faith, which is fantastic, but they didn't teach them about what it means to be a man of faith as an adult. And so they spent all those years in children's ministry and all those years in youth ministry never learning about what it means to be an adult man. And I have no idea why a church would do that and why parents would put up with that. So what do we expect when guys have been abandoned by the communities that should have been training them, when they don't do things that we expect they should be doing by the time they're 18, 19, 20, 25, 28, 30. Of course they're getting married later. Of course they're getting jobs later. Of course they're not going to college. Of course they're silly and immature and man-children. Like, what else do we expect? We don't train them in the way that we do. What guys needed, what they really needed between especially probably second, third grade and to the end of high school, is concentrated, a single-sex education in terms of formation, virtue formation with guys, their dads and older men, to teach them what it means to be adult men. So if you did not get that, I am terribly, terribly sorry. You've been robbed. You've been abandoned. And we turned our backs on you. And it was wrong. And it's not fair for us to now mock you and emasculate you and try to shame you because you're not being the men that we expect you to be. I'll link some of these books down below. If you're a dad, you can stop this. Now, I'm about to say something controversial if you're in a church setting. Your son is better off spending time with you and your friends sons. If that kid's involved in sports, music, anything else at school, and you've got one night a week that you can get some time doing some virtue formation, right? Doing some spiritual formation, he is better off spending that time with you, Dad, and Dad, your friends, and your friends' sons, you guys as a group. He is better off spending that time with you than being at church, playing some games and throwing food and singing some songs and getting a 10-minute talk. Okay? He is better off being with you and your friends sons. These are your boys, these are your sons, and you know exactly what you need to do. There's some great resources I'll link below to help you. We can turn this around, and if you need some help, there's some help out there for you, and we can stop this cycle so that we can, I think, for once and for all, begin to give our sons and our brothers, our nephews, the things that they actually need to be the strong men that they actually really want to be.